working properly. There we go. All right. We're recording again. My guest name is Mary, and she is probably the last person to talk to my friend, Grandma VK Durham, who I interviewed many times over the last 20 years. It's, oops, okay, wait here, we lost something here. Hold on a second. Hold on, Robbie. Try to get the card back, it says.
Okay, good.
Oh, got you. Still got you. What did I lose here? Veterans Truth and Network, possibly. Blog Talk still on. I still got Mary. We got, we'll try Veterans Truth again. See if we can get that hooked back up. And, Mary gave me some very sad news. I hadn't heard from VK, Grandma, who I affectionately call Grandma, for several months. I had been moving, I had been traveling, getting re-established somewhere in Texas. And this is very sad news because VK could have been, and probably was, one of the most wealthy women in America. It's yet she couldn't get anything from the banks. The Federal Reserve, the Zionists in there, stopped her from getting anything. Now, this is a woman who pretty much rubbed shoulders with royalty, knew so many people that it's almost mind-boggling. I'll try to get something back up here. And let me share one of her last articles entitled, "When the American People Wake Up." She said it took me from November 17th, 1993 until just recently to figure out what my husband, U.S. Naval Intelligence, U.S. Coast Guard, CIA Russell Herman meant when he sat in that chair in our living room with that 1,000-yard stare after being brought home from the kidnapping, torture, and rape incident of October 28, 1993, when he was taken across state lines, missing and unaccounted for from around 9:15 a.m. until 21:27, 57, that date, and said, when the American people wake up and realize what the federal government has done to them, I would not want to be the president. I would not want to be in the House of Representatives. I would not want to be a judge on the bench or even in law enforcement. Not even a local dog catcher, because they will be hunted down like dogs and given a fair trial and taken out on the Capitol steps and hung. After my husband's experience, he knew they were going to kill him. He broke his code of silence and told much of what is in the following article about Paulman Sinkus and Sedona, George Klein, who committed suicide, Manuel Noriega, $10 account security bank, the Shah of Iran, Marion Akins, Liberty Insurance, U.S. Treasury, IRS, Clyde Hood, World Bank, Judge Hamrick, Delta Insurance, Delta Force, and I learned yesterday, January 30th, 2008, Frank Suma was murdered in his motel room. George Franz died from ground glass injection. Ruth Dash, a broken neck. from being pushed down basement steps, and so many others followed. The story needed to be told before I passed away, and everyone wondered what the heck caused our country to become the monstrosity it has become in the straying away from our mandatory constitutional form of government into the making, passing, and imposition of forbidden, unconstitutional, despotic, oppressive laws. From the time of the Bretton Woods Agreement, IMF-GATT of 1945-1947, it was policy that gold remained at $28 per fine troy ounce up until this banking mess, which exposed in part in the BCCI investigations, came to the forefront, which was actually a part of the U.S. savings and loan debacle investigation, raised the bar on gold to $38 per troy ounce on the U.S. gold trade dollars, and it's currently somewhere around $68 per fine troy ounce on the U.S. gold trade dollars, which has been hyperinflated due to the United States attempts to cover the bank's loss mentioned in the following money and covering the external debt of the U.S. due to the counterfeit U.S. debt instruments, along with the oil trading credits as a kicker in this gold banking racket. This is the kind of information she put out. She put this out, and she was incredible. And Mary, you were the last one to see her. How well did you know her,
Yeah.
and can you tell us what has happened here?
Well, I moved in, I was down in Florida, and then I had a bad experience down there, so I moved up to the place where she was living at. And I don't know, I guess I was sitting fire because I was still PO'd about everything that happened down in Florida. And her, VK, and a couple of other little ladies up there, I call them my angels. They picked me up and literally put me back together. Mentally, they really did. And then I have a dog, and VK had a dog, and then I just started walking VK's dog, and then my dog wouldn't go home with me. She wanted to stay at VK's, and VK's dog wanted to stay with me. So we kind of just became really good, super good friends, and then we just started hanging around.
Whoops. Hang on again here. What did we do here?
Well,
Okay, hold on just a minute. Let me try to bring my other... I've lost one of my networks here. Obviously, they didn't like the fact that I had her on my show so many times over the years. Obviously, they didn't like me much, and they tried to kill me in the hospital, and...
He took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. By some, he's been called controversial.
I'll keep my freedom, I'll keep my guns, try to keep my money and my religion too.
Now, keep in mind that some of my guests have been approached by Homeland Security or FBI saying, why are you going on the Clay Douglas show?
My message to those guys, if they're listening this morning, is go get a cup of coffee. Maybe you'll learn something.
We both took the same oath, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that.
I'm gonna keep my big VA, keep my friends the same, keep the government out of my business, and y'all can keep the change.
He is the free American, Clay Douglas.
We know what we need, we know who to blame.
Catch the Free American Hour, weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
I'll keep the USA in y'all.
podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
All right, we're
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to
still
another edition of the Free American Hour. I'm your host, Clay Douglas. And my guest today is VK Durham, and also known as Grandma. Hello, Grandma. How are you?
Oh, I tell you, say I am in a fix. I was falsely led to believe that I was coming to West Virginia to work on a book regarding Russell's life and his life story and a movie, and I was offered $5 million by Gene Valentine. And that for his book, for Russell's book, and for mine, and for the movie rights. And we were to work out the residuals later. Everything. They promised me the moon, carte blanche, everything.
So he could get access. Now, let me set the stage here. You have.
Before I lose, I don't have much time.
All right, dear. I just need to
So
say.
anyway, when I got here, the whole venue of the whole situation changed. You know, there's a morals clause in those trusts, and that morals clause is as applicable to me as it is to any of the trust officers or anybody associated with the trust. After I got here, Mr. Valentine proceeded, and his manager here, Carl Taylor, they proceeded to try to force an alternate lifestyle on me. And I did not grow up in an area where we had alternate lifestyles, that it was an acceptable thing for any social situation. The women weren't exposed to it. The men would have killed anybody that tried to expose us to it. So anyway, on the 5th of February, I personally encountered Mr. Valentine fondling a male's genitals. He was subsequently dismissed over conduct unbecoming. Since that time, he has tried to destroy the trust. He's tried to destroy me. He's tried to destroy anyone that works with me, or has tried to help me financially. They've called people and told them that they were the legal counsel they were the Virginia legal counsel for Gene Valentine, and Gene Valentine was going to sue them for slanders, et cetera, if they helped VK Durham. Well, come to find out, that so-called hold on just a minute. That so-called attorney is nothing other than his manager of this estate. Okay, so now I've got a problem. I need financial assistance. He has pulled his financial. I've had to go without medicals. He promised me full medicals, that I would get medical treatment, that I would get everything. Doctors, x-rays, whatever it required, whatever was necessary. And he quit paying the doctors. He quit paying the medicals. He just quit. And then he hired an attorney to handle my Social Security disability. And when I refused to accept that alternate lifestyle, he pulled the attorney off, and they used the excuse of that the retirement benefits had been in res judicata, already been determined, and that they wouldn't represent me. That was after they got all the information on the Social Security. Then they proceeded to use all the information on the Social Security against me.
All right, I'm going to stop that for a little while. Mary, I mean, this is the kind of information I got. And about 2 or 3 days ago, I noticed on my Facebook, Jean Valentine wanted to be friends with me. Unfortunately, unfortunately, Facebook doesn't allow me to say fuck you, so I'll just do that now. Sorry, and my apologies to you for that language. But it is my hope that someday I actually get to run into Jean Valentine, who threatened to sue me for having her on my show. Did you?
Let him sue me, because I don't have anything.
Did you meet him? Did Grandma tell you about him?
Oh, she told me about him. She told me he was a fucking son of a bitch, and that hell wouldn't want him. The devil wouldn't want him, she said, because he's in cahoots with him. But I've never personally met him. I do know for a fact that he keeps, when I was over at her place, she would say, look at that. She says, there's an email from him. She'd write back and she'd say, I told you to stay the fuck away from me. I don't want to see or talk to you ever again. And that when she'd block him out. Somehow he kept getting back on it.
Now, I billed this as her last days. I've still got links up to the Antechamber. That was her website. And I have I published her story in one of the last issues of the Free American, which you folks can still get for $2.99 at shop.freeamerican.com. You've got the first 11 issues is free up on my website, and got about a half dozen or more that aren't free, and I think Grandma's Story is in one of those. But I never got out to see her. I wanted to bring her out to New Mexico when I had a home before I lost that, and I couldn't do it, and she couldn't go, and I couldn't do more to help her.
When she walked into her room, everybody got out of the way. She took full presence.
She was really beautiful and probably one of the best friends I ever had. One of the best guests I ever had. And we never met, never got to meet personally, but I'm telling you, I still got her picture up of her when she was younger, when she was married, and I sometimes just sit and stare at it. Tell me about her. Tell me, and tell me how. Because the way she died, I find that to be very suspicious too. Can you?
Well, yeah, when she went into the hospital, she was to go in for scope things down her throat, and I was at my son's for a few days. And I get this call from one of the ladies up there, one of my angels, and telling me that VK's in the hospital. So, and that she's on life support. So I said, what happened? And she says, I don't know. So I went up that night. Then next morning I went over to the hospital. Sure enough, she was on life support. Well, nurses kept coming in and out, and finally I said to one of the nurses, what happened? She says, she's on life support. And I said, well, no shit. What happened? And you have to talk to the doctors. So there was this other lady that stayed up there with me too, that lived in the same complex, and nobody told her anything different. Well, finally this one nurse came in, and I started really questioning her, and she says, well, she died on the table. And I said, what do you mean she died on the table? She says, well, she said had something to do with anesthesia. And I said, well, what did they give her? She says, I don't know, but it caused her to die. And I said, well, how long was she? She said, then she told me that she was brain dead. And I said, how long does it take to be brain dead without oxygen? And she said, about 4 minutes. I said, okay, so where in the hell was the doctors at those 4 minutes? Well, let's say, tiddlywinks, deck of cards. Where were they? Aren't they supposed to be there with her? And she said, well, you'll have to talk to the doctor. And I said, well, where is the doctor? Well, he'll be in. Well, 4 or 5 doctors came in, and evidently none of them was the right doctor. So finally, they came in, and they said, I'm questioning them again, and I'm sitting on top, practically on top of her bed, because her eyes is open, they're clear. And they had to tube that in her, down her throat. They had it down her throat. And I got up in her face, and I said, VK, can you hear me? Can you hear me? And she didn't say a word. And finally, I got practically on top of her, and I felt her and everything, and I said to her, VK, if you're in there, blink for me. Well, she blinked. And when she blinked, I said, okay, now can you blink your other eye? She blinked the other eye, and I said, okay, now that I know you're in there, you know who I am. And she said, and she blinked yes. And I said, okay, good. I said, you know that I love you, and I'm not going to leave you. And she closed both of her eyes, and she took a nap. Well, then a few days later, she was in there for a month.
Now, this is, let me clarify this. This is after they told you she was brain dead?
Yeah.
Brain dead people don't blink their eyes, yes or no?
Well, she did. But then again, she's one hell of a woman.
Yes, she was.
But that's what they told me. She was brain dead. So the other lady and I, we took turns. We never left her by herself, because she's always said that if she ever went into the hospital, somebody was going to try to kill her. And everybody else from her company says, don't say anything to anybody, because they're going to come back and they're going to get you, right? I got a big mouth. So when I'd go back to the complex, somebody would ask me how she was, and I'd tell them. And the other lady, she was like shaking in her shoes. So we went back up there, and finally, the other lady, she got her a prayer blanket, a blue prayer blanket, and put it over her. And so we sat there and rearranged her arms, because she's just swollen. And all of a sudden, her foot moved. And I said, look, she's moving. So I run out, and she moved her foot. And I ran out, and I got the nurse, and the nurse says, oh, it's just involuntary. Yeah, it didn't really mean nothing. Unless the doctor sees it, it doesn't mean anything. So one of the doctors comes in, and I went over to VK. I said, VK, it's me. Move your foot. She moved her big toe, because the color of blue that was on the bed, you could see it. I said, did you see this, Doc? He goes, yeah. I said, I want it documented. So I guess he wrote it down, but there was nothing anything else said about it. Well, finally they're coming in, and they're wanting money. And so, and first they wanted power of medical. So myself and this other lady, we decided between the two of us that nobody was going to take her off of that life support system. As long as the heart is beating, she's alive. So finally they come in and they decide that they're going to move her because I guess they needed the bed. Where are you going to send her to? I don't know. We was going to send her right across the river. But, unfortunately, all she had was the welfare card. The welfare card wouldn't take it. Because when we lived there, she only got like $82 in food stamps a month.
Where was it? Where was this? What hospital was she in? What town was she in at this time? Where was she living at this time, Mary?
She was living in Weirton, or Wellsburg.
What state? I don't know.
And
that's not familiar to me.
West Virginia.
Okay, she's still in West Virginia. Okay.
Yeah. So we wanted to take her over to Ohio because over there they had a hospital that was equipped for coma patients, but they wouldn't do it because she didn't have Part D. So one day we went. Like I said, she was in there for almost a month. So, but she was doing okay. I mean, she looked good. She had good coloring. She blinked at me, and she was even moving her head. But of course, it wasn't documented, so it didn't happen. So one day that morning we went up there, and the nurse came in, and the nurse said, "We're moving her." I said, "Well, where are you moving her to?" "We're moving her up to Pennsylvania." Where at? So they gave us the map to get there. So we followed them up. Now, normally when they move a person out, it takes probably 10 minutes. What do they do? Roll you up in a blanket, put you on a cot, take you downstairs, and put you in an ambulance, right? Well, it took them about a half hour, 45 minutes to do this. And it was cold because it was the 1st of December. So we followed the ambulance up from Weirton and all the way up to past Little Washington. And we followed her in, and we ran in, and they said, "Well, you can't see her yet." And I said, "Well, why can't I?" Because they have to admission her and put her down, and you have to sign your John Hancock for medical power of attorney because it's in another state now. So I said, okay. So about a half hour, 45 minutes later, we go in, and there she is. There she is. She's laying there. She's all covered in sweat. She's clammy. They got IVs in her, and she's out of it. I mean, completely gone, zonked. And I said, and then the nurse comes in, and she says, "Well, we want to talk to you about, what is it, when they come to your, when they let you down." I'll think of that word in a minute. And I said, "No." I said, do you have her on oxygen now?" And they said, "Yeah." I said, "You better keep her on it." And so they said, "Well, you really need to go because she's not doing real well right now." And I said, "But what happened to her?" "Well, it's just the trip that pulled her down." And I said, "Bullshit." So after they got her settled in and everything, we talked to her and everything, and we went home, and I went back and I got some silk pajamas for her and brought the dogs up. I'm thinking now that the other dogs wasn't allowed up in the other hospital. But I asked them, I said, "Now, can we bring Buddy and Allie up for her to see? Maybe this would bring her out." Because she loved Buddy. And we took her up the next morning. We went up there. I couldn't get nothing out of her. Nurse comes in. I said, "How's she doing?" "She's not doing too good." I said, "No shit." I said, "Well, I asked you something." I said, we took the back roads home last night, and I said, it only took us a half hour to get there. Why did it take an hour on the interstate to get there? Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask somebody else. I said, well, there you go. Nobody knows a damn thing anymore. I said, must have been an acute case of stupidity going around. So I'm sitting there with him and everything, and I took Rosemary stayed there with her, and I took brought the dogs back home. And I was going to go back up the next morning. 9 o'clock that morning, I get a phone call from Rosemary telling me that she's dead. She died at 2:30 that morning.
What date was this?
And
December 6th?
She went in on the first, and she died on the 2nd. So actually 2.5 days.
And the 2nd, okay.
And then I went up. Yeah. She died at 2:30 in the morning. And they never bothered calling anybody till 9 at night, or 9 in the morning, to tell anybody. And I went back up there that day, and I went up to get her stuff. Well, little did you know, her stuff's not there. Wow, disappeared. Somebody swiped it. So I practically tore that nursing home up there till I found it. Here they had it hid in the laundry room in a box in a corner. They no way they're going to take anything of hers. I'll tear that hospital down first. So we got back home, and I called and we went down to the funeral place. I wanted to see her because, you know, unless I see that she is dead, she's so dead to me. Well, they wouldn't let me see her. They kept her in cold storage for almost a month before they'd let me see her. And then when I asked them why, and they said, well, she's high priority. We have to keep her locked up. I said, so let me in and walk me in. I'll guarantee you she won't come back out. I just want to know that she's dead. They wouldn't do it. It took them a month. It took them a month to get her buried. And when I took the clothes down to her, I said to the guy down there, I said, why don't you let me in there to see her so I can make sure this dress fits her? And he said, I can't let you do that. I have to, anybody that goes in there has to sign a paper. Well, I kept a couple of her papers, and I gave them to my son, and he gave them to his lawyer. And his lawyer told him that he wouldn't touch that case with a 10-foot pole because it's too priority, and the feds are involved in it. And for Jimmy to tell me to keep my nose out of it.
The feds are involved in it, huh? Well, of course, the feds are going to try to get any documentation and get control of the Durham Trust, and
but they'll never get a hold of it.
What's that?
They'll never see it. They'll never see it. I have an idea where it's at, but they'll never see it. I'll make damn sure of that. And whenever I ask her
who did Grandma have? Who did she put in charge? Who was she using to handle the trust or whatever paperwork was involved? I mean, I've told people that the bankers, the Federal Reserve, the Zionists that control our monetary system, would not allow her. She would have been one of the richest women in the world, possibly the richest woman in the world, if they had ever allowed her to access her trust. They never did they?
You know that we shopped at Salvation Army and we shopped at Goodwill. Every Wednesday we made our route, all four of us. I got $82 in food stamps and she got $82. Mine came on the 4th. We went to the store on the 4th, and hers came in around the 15th. And then we'd take hers, and then we'd use her 82 for the rest of the month. That's how we became such good friends, because we had to rely on each other. I always said that now see, my mom and dad did, but Mom always said I was a handful. But I always said that Mom sent VK to me to keep me under control.
She was good at control, and if you'll notice on our show there, I could barely ask a question. She would tell me when I could ask her a question.
Yeah. And I'd say to VK, I'd say, can't you tell me something? She'd say, only thing I'm going to tell you, Mary. And she said, can you get this in your head right now? If I tell you to duck, you better duck. So we went somewhere, and she yelled, duck, and I went, where? She said, you're dead. Yeah. She said, you'd never make it. I said, I know it. I said, when it's my time to go, it's my time to go. I said, all I can tell you is when it's my time to go, Mom, and you better be there waiting on me, because it's going to take two of you to handle me. But yeah, she became my second mother. She really was. The woman didn't have a pot to piss in, and well, she did have a window to throw it out, because Jean Valentine used to park up on the back of the hill and watch her. One day, well, it had to have been around 5, 6 o'clock. It was just starting to go dusk. VK said to me, look, they're sitting up there watching me. I said, well, wave to him. So we both waved to him. And I said, who is that? And she said, it's the government car. I said, are you sure? Yeah. So I said, wait a minute. So I ran out, took my dog, ran out, walked around the back of the building, took my camera, and I took a picture of the car. And I wasn't getting such a real good picture close up of it, so I started walking up the hill, and boy, that car got out of there fast. So I went back, downloaded it on her computer, and it was a government car. But but they never said anything to me. But they split real fast up there. She said, see, I told you it was a government car. They're up there 3 or 4 times a week watching me. I said, well, the next time we ought to take them up the sandwich. They might be hungry. And that's when she told me, she said, you better watch yourself. She said, when you go somewhere. And then there for a while also, and she even told the manager of the apartment building that there was a black car in the back of the building and there was one in the front. And it would get there about 2 o'clock in the morning. Just about time when Buddy would have to, he'll do his duck call, his goose call, because that's when he has to go to the bathroom. And she went out there, and there was a couple men followed her, tried to follow her into the building, but she got in too fast. But yeah, they were all over her big. But they'll never find what they're looking for. I can guarantee you that. Because if I couldn't find it, I know damn well nobody else could. And if it's where I think it's at, they'll never think about it. Now, when she left, and I cleaned out her apartment. I got most of her stuff. There's a few things that they came in and, they took the computer and a bunch of other stuff. Paperwork.
Who took the computer? Who took the computer?
Her company.
Okay.
And she was right. She did have a book. She was writing a book, because I read part of it. And it was all about how she met Russell. So, she was writing a book. And everybody said that she was a lunatic, and she was nuts. But the woman wasn't nuts. She was just smart. And the ladies up there would say, hey, how do you get along with her? She's nuts. Oh, there's nothing wrong with her. I said, you'd only half listen to her and then shake your head and say, yeah, I heard you. But one lady, she said, well, she threatened me. And I said, no, she didn't. Yes, she did. She told me if I didn't quit talking about her, she was going to have me taken away. Nobody would ever find me. I just started laughing at her. But yeah, the woman, when she walked, she had presence. When she walked into a building, everybody moved over. She was a wonderful person. And I'll tell you what, she was even more, to me, BK isn't dead. To me, BK is alive. I just can't see her at times, that's all. But she's there when I need it. Whenever I need something or anything like that, I call for her and I call for Mom, and they're both there with me. In spirit.
Well, I do believe she is quite capable of still hanging around and watching over us. I believe that, and this is, we didn't always agree on everything. I would have done things a little differently, but she was the most sane woman that I ever met. And let me,
I used to tell her she had a steel, her mind was a steel trap. Nothing could get in there. And she said, you're absolutely right. She says, do you know how many years it took me to train myself to do that? And I says, yeah, I can imagine how long it would take you. She said, you'd never make it. She said, you got loose lips. And I said, yeah, I do.
Well, I see you got rid of gas tank.
But other than that, I mean, like I said.
Hear how he talked about that guy in there. He said, why should you get here?
let me hold on just a second here. Trying to
Okay.
all right, let me I want to hear her voice again. Hold on just a second. And I've got this show linked up on my site, freeamerican.com. I think I did it with her about 3 years ago. And let me, we've had a little tough time. One of my radio stations has been crashing.
So, what brings you and Greg to marriage counseling today?
Jake from State Farm. My husband calls him all the time.
Hold on.
2, 3 in the morning. It doesn't matter.
I see. Greg, is this true?
Yeah, Jake saves us tons on our insurance, no matter what time it is. He's always there.
But how much did he save you?
Hundreds.
Listen, can I call this Jake from State Farm?
You've got to be kidding me.
State Farm is there for you anytime, anywhere. Call 1-800-STATE-FARM or click today. Get to a better state. State
Sorry
Farm.
about the commercials here, but
Blog Talk Radio.
I think we
And
did
I
this.
had not worked since I was disabled in February '83. Now they're trying to spread that malicious rumor that the Eckers spread. I'm not married to Russell Herman. Russell Herman assassinated JFK. Russell Herman stole those instruments. Russell Herman never had a thing to do with those instruments. Those instruments were in my family. They were in my family since 1876.
She's talking about the Durham
were
Trust.
put over there in my name by the nation of Russell Herman's name isn't on there anywhere. So now this has gone just far enough, and I can't handle any more of this. He tried to by the withdrawing of his support, he tried to dump me on the state of Virginia on their welfare system, or West Virginia, on their welfare system. And now, the state of West Virginia is being taken unfair advantage of fraudulently by Gene Valentine and his people here at the Aspen Manor.
Well, let me
and Gene is a registered securities exchange broker.
That's what I'm trying to determine here.
And they file perjury, and there's perjury, child filed into court, which has been proven to the authorities. And now there's a big investigation coming down. So I need help, guys. I'm being held hostage. This is the damnedest case of kidnapping you ever saw. It's the damnedest case of RICO you ever saw. So now, Clay, you can talk, and I don't have much time.
Well, who is Gene Valentine, and where did he come from? Is this an agent of the banksters? I know that the Bush...
Oh, I'll tell you who he is. He was a representative of Lyndon LaRouche.
Okay.
And he at first came to me looking for financial underwriting for Lyndon LaRouche. And that's how they stalked me. They did stalk me. And then I discovered that Lyndon was in probable violation of the Logan Act by dealing with countries outside the United States in financial matters. And that now we have a situation that could probably be determined as un-American activity.
LaRouche has been pretty accurate about what he's been saying about the way the government's going. Is he a good guy or a bad guy, though, here? What are we going?
I am undetermined. But I know that's how Gene Valentine stalked me, was under the false pretenses of getting underwriting for Lyndon LaRouche. That's exactly how he did it.
Where are you going now? I know the movers are there, so you're getting away. You're getting away from their control.
I'm not going to say where I'm going.
Okay, dear.
Because
all right.
my life is already received death threats from Gene Valentine.
Of course, he sent me labels, and of course he's got his phone number on it. I just need more information. I haven't called him or I haven't talked to him yet. And
you won't be able to do it.
Okay.
They're going to tell you that VK Durham's a liar. She wasn't married to Russell Herman. They're going through the same things the actors went through.
They're doing the same thing. They're attacking me. They're attacking Truott. They're attacking the whole Liberty Village concept, which I've got nothing to do with. I mean, I don't own the land. I'm not putting it on there. I'm just giving people ideas, you know.
This goes, that goes, that goes. Hey, I gotta go.
All right.
I gotta go.
Well, listen.
Okay.
You stay in touch.
Send me a recording, and I sent you an email yesterday. Take from that, okay? Read it to the people, okay?
All right, dear.
And tell the people I thank them for their support since Russell passed or since he was murdered. I've never had my reputation or my name slandered and put about and disrespected as much as Gene Valentine has disrespected it.
All right, I'm going to stop that, Mary. It tells me that I recorded this over 3 years ago. What can you fill in there? What do you think about what she said?
Everything VK ever said to me turned out true. She'd say something and I'd open my mouth and she'd say, "Now shut up and listen, you'll learn something." And then that long finger would come out at me. But I have a bill in front of me right now from... Get it here. From that place where she was at. And they want... Matter of fact, I was supposed to send it to you, and I haven't got to it yet.
Did she leave a will?
It's under VK Durham, and one's for $358.68, and one's for $1,500. And I got the papers right here in my hand. And but it was from 12th month, second day, to 12th month on the 4th. So they have for 3 days from the time they got it in there, and it's for $1,050 that they want me to pay, and I'm not going to pay it because they killed her, or they let somebody else do it, and they tried to rob her clothes, and that doesn't do well with me right now. It's still a very sore spot, and they want me to send them checkbook, Social Security card. I gave them the name of who to get hold of, and evidently they're not doing anything on their side either, or on their company's side. But I can guarantee you, if I ever run into anything that has to do with that, they'll never get any information out of me. I'm not a smart person to begin with, but I'm not that stupid either.
I'm almost tempted.
I will protect VK as long as I live.
I'm almost tempted.
She will be protected.
I'm almost tempted.
I couldn't do anything for her. Yeah, I couldn't do anything for her up there, but I can sure now do it now.
Well, any way I can help, I'm pretty, they have pretty well, over the last 10 years, tried to kill me, tried to stop me. And, of course, that, part of that is due to having people like VK on my show. I featured her writings in my magazines.
Mm-hmm. She wrote for all over the world. Everything she wrote went.
I'm going to do something here. I do things, a little differently, and not always. But I think I'll see what I can find out.
Now, I do have the papers. I just haven't been anywhere to get copies made off of them.
That's all right, dear.
But I'm going to call you back later, and I will get the papers, because I've got them in hiding.
Okay. If you'll hold on a minute and don't give any, undue information out over this show. The show is recorded, put it up on Blog Talk. But I'm going to make a call now to somebody I got in my Skype here. Gene C. Valentine. How about that?
Oh.
Let's see what we can do here.
Okay.
The number you dialed is not a working number. Please check the number and dial again.
All right, that figures he's changed his numbers if it ever existed. But
Sneaky. He's a sneaky snake.
I believe so. And I didn't add him as a friend on my Facebook page either, so. But
yeah.
Sorry, he didn't answer. I would have liked to confronted him.
Get him.
He'll listen to the show. He'll call me again because I had.
Yeah, God will get him, and then VK will get him. They'll both get him. He'll be sorry.
Now, did she leave a will? And what's going to happen to the Durham Trust? Is this if this is possible here? I think she'd still like to see that money and that trust put towards the good of America. It's what Russell wanted. It's what she wanted, as far as I can tell.
She always told me that trust was for the people. That was God's money. It wasn't her money, it was God's. And whatever God wanted to do with that money, he could. I said, well, can't you get a little bit of it? I said, at least get you out of debt. Get some groceries in here? She says, no, that's God's money. I'm not touching it. And she never did. We disrupted it from one month to the other. If we had gas money, we had gas money. If we didn't go. That's what she said. And sure enough, she was true to her word. Everything she said came true. If she told you something, you know, it was the truth. Whether you wanted to hear it or not. But I'm pretty sure, yes, there was a will, and there was other papers and stuff. I can't go into it right now, but I may not walk again. Maybe next time they'll break both of my legs. Yeah, all the papers was there. And I know that there was also a big insurance thing too, because she told me about that one. But that insurance was to go back into the company. Everything she owned, she said, that even down to, she had a beautiful wedding band ring, engagement ring, huge. And she told me, I said, well, why don't you will me that ring? And she'd say, Mary, I'm telling you, everything I have, including my underwear that I have on now, she says, goes right back to the company. I said, well, you better hope they're clean. But that's what she said. I don't know too much about the company. I tried looking up the company, but I didn't get too far on it. I don't really know how to go about doing, you know, that kind of stuff. But I think one of my kids tried that too, and they didn't get too far with it either. I don't know what's going on with the company or anything either. But I got the dog.
I know that you'll take good. I know that you'll take good care of Buddy there.
Hey, he's 12 years old. He's coming down his hair back, all this shirts and everything is there. He says I took the doctor. He's on pain pills for his arthritis so bad. Looks like a little woolly one curled up to the nerve with the arthritis.
And I'd like them probably, but there ain't. And let's see what we are getting interference on here. Could be on my end. I'm not sure. You were fading out there. And got a few news stories here, but I haven't been able to verify something about the U.S. Embassy wanting to change the 4th of July to the 4th of June, so as not to offend Ramadan or interfere with Ramadan, something like that. I don't know here where this is coming from. We've got, usually this comes from some pretty reliable people. Yep, dropped it again here. Interesting here. I've got and still is. We're trying to get that up on Skype right now. We did record on Truth Radio. We did record on Better Truth today when we finally got connected on there. We've, by the way, folks, just so you know, while I'm trying to get back up here and reconnect with Blog Talk, I did go investigate a Walmart, one of the closed Walmart, and guess what? I didn't see any plumbing trucks there. but they were working on the roof, and they did build fences. They looked like brick fences, but they were just siding. They had the whole store covered. The windows up front were blocked out. The doorways were blocked out. And there was a truck parked out front called security.
Dann mehrheitlich dem Paragraphen zugestimmt. Und dieser Paragraph, der ist schon sprachlich ein Unding. Der heißt nämlich, mit 5 Jahren Gefängnis oder Geldstrafe wird belegt, und das kommt zum Hinweis auf ein Völkerrecht, begangene Verbrechen,
I don't know where that's coming from.
Billigt, leugnet oder verharmlost in einer Weise, die geeignet ist, den öffentlichen Frieden zu stören. Also erstmal heißt es begangene Verbrechen des Nationalsozialismus. Es kann nicht gemeint, geglaubt, behauptet werden, es muss eine Tatsache sein. Diese Tatsache ist aber inzwischen sehr umstritten, also da fällt es schon weg. Das nächste, billigen, das größte Verbrechen, was die Menschheit je begangen hat.
All right, I don't know. I have no idea where that's coming from, Mary. My apologies to this. Let me see if I can get this up.
Yeah, sorry, it's your fault.
I've cut off everything else that's up here, and I don't know what's going on. Hold on, Joe. Hold on, I've got to have this quiet here so I can hear what's going on here. Hold on.
Might have to dial you back, Mary.
Look, it's not even connected with Blog Talk. What was the name of this security company again?
Central Defense Security.
Central Defense Security was the name on the truck that was sitting on the Walmart parking lot. I haven't been able to find that yet. We're not connecting with Blog Talk. It's trying to connect. We headed there for a second, but then we were getting some Mexican or German station here.
It was German. That was German.
Was that German?
That was German.
Okay, call failed. Call failed. Come on, let's try it again.
Was VK Durham?
No.
That's really strange.
But we got a troll on the chat room by the name of Barbara Hartwell calling me a Jew hater. Says she sees